Ho 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 everyone, in today's video I'm going to be reviewing the horror Christmas movie Christmas Evil, so you better watch out, you better not cry, you better not pout, I'm telling you why, cause Santa Claus is coming to... Okay, I'm just joking guys, that's just like my bad Christmas song, my bad parody spoof of Santa Claus is coming to town. I tell you, I cannot sing for anything, so feel free to make fun of my singing in the comments. You have my permission. I won't be upset or offended by all means, by any chance. Even I admit, I am not a good singer. I suck at it. But anyway, that's not the point of today's video. So yeah, like I said, in today's video, I'm going to be reviewing the horror Christmas movie called Christmas Evil from 1980. Before I dive into my personal opinion on Christmas Evil from 1980, I just want to give a little bit of a background, a recap about the horror slasher genre for the time. Because after the success of the first Halloween film from 1978, in the 80s, there were tons of slasher ripoffs of that film because of Halloween. I mean, yes, you can make the argument that before Halloween, there was other slasher films before that, which is true. Films like Texas Chainsaw Massacre, Black Christmas, Psycho, but Peeping Tom is really considered the first slasher film. But I think the difference is Halloween is what really revolutionized, made the slasher subgenre very popular for its time period at that time. It was the most successful at the box office at the time its release with Halloween. The 80s was a decade of slasher horror subgenre. The downside of the slasher subgenre, it's cliche, rushed productions, poor writing, no character development, as well as we get to know who going to live and die. That's about it. But at the same time, there's still some good slasher films, for instance, Black Christmas, Texas Chainsaw Massacre, Halloween, and other good ones. But I'll admit, some 80s slasher films can be cheesy, goofy, sometimes with some decent quality entertainment. But the 80s slasher films in the 80s had some pretty bad ones. Christmas Evil is a public domain horror movie where there's no rights to this movie. I could use clips of this movie in today's video without worrying about a copyright strike, but today I'm not doing that. Christmas Evil was directed by Lewis Jackson. He also wrote the film. He wasn't really a well-known film director. He was kind of the film director, directed minor films and did other things in film. He also did porn films. The film was produced by The film was produced by Burt Kleiner and Peter Cameron with a K, not a C. The film stars Brandon Margaret, Jeffrey Demon, Diane Hall, and Andy Fenwick. Christmas Evil was released on November 7, 1980. This film was basically shot on a low-budget shot for over $850,000, which would be twice more to compare back to the 80s with filmmaking and low-budget films. The story of Christmas Evil is about Harry Spaulding, a toy factory worker who is mentally scarred from his childhood, and how he found out that there was no Santa Claus. He suffers a mental breakdown at his job for being treated poorly. Then he ends up going on a killing spree dressed as Santa Claus. You're all familiar with the slasher horror Christmas movie Silent Night, Deadly Night from 1984, which was another Christmas horror movie about a killer Santa Claus. The difference is when Silent Night, Deadly Night came out, that movie was protested and considered very controversial, ruining Santa Claus' image at the time. But before that movie came out, it was not the first Christmas horror movie about a killer Santa Claus. This is one of the first early Christmas horror movies about a killer Santa Claus. What I don't understand is, how is it that this film did not get controversial when it came out, yet Silent Night, Deadly Night got more controversial when it came out? I don't know whether it could have been a marketing thing. Was it possible that the marketing of this film was probably not really good at the time compared to the Silent Night, Deadly Night marketing? Who the heck knows? Granted, this film was not really well known or discovered around the time. It wasn't really discovered until years later. It has a cult following in recent years. Heck, even film director John Waters said this is one of his favorite Christmas films and loves to watch it during the Thanksgiving and Christmas season. Also, the same year that there was another horror Christmas movie that came out about a killer Santa Claus was called To All a Good Night. And back in the 1970s, there was the Tales from the Crypt horror anthology film about a killer Santa Claus. Christmas Evil is not one of my favorite Christmas horror movies. It's still an interesting film that has its moments and weird, creepy, bizarre moments. Despite the film being a slasher film, it's definitely a little bit more psychological than it is. You have this character, Harry, who was traumatized from his childhood, how he found there was no Santa Claus. When he saw his father dressed as Santa Claus, giving his mother oral pleasure. Hence, I saw mommy kissing Santa Claus. That was really weird, bizarre, and also, that kid really needs a lot of therapy after getting over an experience like that. Talk about finding out the hard way there is no Santa Claus. The character Harry is a weird, creepy, disturbing peeping Tom who spies on kids that was creepier than the beard mirror scene. He uses binoculars to look out the window and see the little kids like a pervert thinking he's the real Santa Claus, checking to see if they're naughty or nice. We also see how Harry has an unhealthy obsession thinking that he's the real Santa Claus. And they also hint that there's like an estranged relationship with his younger brother Phil. I wish I could have delved more into that, but at the same time, it was not the movie's main focus at the same time. You can also say that his brother Phil really loved and cared about him, but at the same time, Harry did like not want his help, thinking that there was like nothing to do to help him with his mental problems. And that Harry did not like want help at all whatsoever. Despite the title of this movie, it's not as like cheesy as it sounds. I mean, I'll admit, the film does have its moments of being cheesy, but it's not as cheesy as I thought it would be compared to like Silent Night, Deadly Night, or other like cheesy horror Christmas movies. Some of the other characters in this film are not really that interesting or well developed like Harry is. And I'm not saying they're like bad characters, they're just like not that interesting or well developed characters. I will say his co-workers and his boss are real jerks, pricks, and treat Harry like crap at his job. Especially how like one of Harry's co-workers asked him to cover his shift for him because he said he was too busy with something, where really he had nothing to do and he was not busy. He just went to a bar that night. I tell you, what a putz. It's also interesting and weird saying how, despite how like Harry's insanity and craziness, he's somewhat of a two-dimensional character. On Christmas Eve, the movie does a good job feeling like a feel-good Christmas movie, touching heart moment at times. You basically have your guard like let down for a few moments, feeling like it's a harmless thing that Harry is like delivering Christmas presents on Christmas Eve at a children's hospital. Because at Harry's job, he feels like the rich, greedy business jerks are solely neglectful and do not give a shit about the kids who like can't afford to have a Christmas, and also like cannot have a Christmas at the children's hospital because they're in the hospital beds recovering from like whatever like type of like illnesses or surgeries that they're having, etc. All the businessmen really care about is just like money and greed and power. Whereas Harry, he really cares about the children having a good Christmas, despite how like weird and awkward he is when he looks out the window with his binoculars at the children being a peeping Tom, checking to see if they're naughty or nice. As I said before, your guard is like let down for a while. It's feeling like a feel-good Christmas mode. Then all of a sudden, when he starts going around killing his co-workers and his boss, all hell breaks loose and chaos gets really crazy. The part like when Harry goes around like killing people and the parents are chasing him, they light up torches. I don't know why, it made me think about like the Universal monsters. I wonder if that was like a homage to that. The film does feel a little grainy at times because it was a low budget film. It's obviously the movie's not the best picture quality. The movie's definitely cheap at times. As I said before, with the film being like very like psychological at times, you can point this out being similar how like in Taxi Driver with the ending, how like was this really like all in his head? Like did he really like do this? Was this all in like Harry's head? But again, there's like no like right or wrong answer to that. That's like up to your like decision whether or not was this for real or was this all in like Harry's head? Did he like make it up in his head? I will say the music in this movie is very, very good. It's very creepy and spine chilling. Definitely an overrated horror movie soundtrack. The ending of this movie is just okay. It's not like Black Christmas where the ending is great and the killer is still in the house and is never caught. In this movie, Harry just like gets away. We don't know like or make up our own like point of view on whether or not like what happened to Harry. If he got caught or did he like flee the country and we never like see him again. He's never like found. He gets away with murder in the end. There's a director's cut to this movie. The only version I saw you can watch on YouTube is the original cut. And before I end this video, I want to mention before that 2 years ago I did a review of this movie on my friend's YouTube channel from Canto 1408. I'll leave a link in the description to show you that, and you go check it out. So that was my review of the original Christmas Evil. Hope you liked and enjoyed it. Like the video, subscribe, hit the notification bell to get the latest updates on my YouTube channel. And once again, happy holidays, Merry Christmas, Happy Hanukkah, Happy Kwanzaa, whatever you celebrate, and Happy New Year, and I'll see you in the next year of 2022.